Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to install and configure the layer slider for your theme. When you purchased your theme, you also received a plugin for LayerSlider. So once you've installed your theme, the first thing you want to do is go to Plugins, Add New, and then you can upload that zip file. I'm going to click on Upload, and I'm going to browse for where that zip file is on my computer. There we go. There's the layer slider. And then I just click Install now. Once it's installed, you can click on the link to activate it. Okay, and you'll see now once it's active, you've got a new menu that says Layer Slider WP. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a new slider for our home page. You'll see the home page on our theme here doesn't have a slider in it like the demo does. You'll see the demo here with the slider. So this is what we're going to do now. We're going to create this slider and put it in that widget area. So we're going to go to Layer Slider, Add New, and we're going to give a name to this slider here. In this top field, we're just going to call it Home Page Slideshow. Now once you give it a title, there's some settings that you need to configure first. Now under the basic settings, the default width is 600 pixels. For our themes, you want to change this to 100%. The height, the default is 300. In our demos, we use something slightly taller. We use 538 pixels, but you can tweak that to the height that you want. And under responsive, you'll see that it's enabled by default. We're going to change that to not being enabled, and you'll see why in just a minute. Now we want to select full width slider, and we wanted to enable that. And then under the field that says responsive under, we're going to set that to 1260 pixels. And what this does is this says when you get to a screen size that's less than 1260 pixels wide, then you become responsive and adapt to that smaller screen size like an iPad or a smartphone. Okay, the next setting, the layers container, you can leave at the default. The rest of the global settings here, you can pretty much leave those at the default, except for under the skin. Under appearance where it says skin, the default is a default skin. Now for our demos, we prefer the no skin. So you go down and you select no skin. And let's scroll on down. And then we're just going to save our changes. Now if you'd like to do some other things with your slider that we didn't cover, you can go to the link here that says documentation. And LayerSlider has a lot of documentation on how to use LayerSlider here. You just click here and it's right here in your dashboard, so you can read the documentation on what these different options are. You'll see here's your slide options, your layer options, the WYSIWYG editor. So you can go through all this documentation for the global settings. Now once you set the global settings for the slider itself, then you add slides. And you'll see here as soon as I did that and saved my slider, I now have the panel for adding slides. Now the adding slides panel actually has tooltips as well. So you'll see when I mouse over these fields, I get the little balloon that shows me what each one of these options are. So I'm going to go now and I'm going to add a slide to my slideshow. Now most of these settings, all these fields, you can just leave them as a default. The only thing you have to worry about is this first slide option for the image that you want to use in that slider. So I'm going to click my mouse right here in this field, and you'll see when I do, it brings up my media library. I can upload a new file. In this case, I already have a file here that I'm going to use. So I'm going to select this. and you'll see it's the width that I need. This is 1260 pixels by 538. And you need to make sure you've got an image that's big enough to fit in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and click the blue button to insert, and you'll see now that slide is now showing up there. It gives me a preview of what that slide's going to look like. Now I can go ahead and publish, click Save Changes, and now I've got one image in my slideshow. But this slideshow won't appear yet until we put that slideshow widget in the slideshow area. So let's go back to our dashboard. We're going to go to Appearance, Widgets, and you'll see there's a slider widget area. I'm going to open that up, and there's my LayerSlider widget. You won't see it here by default. What you will do is you will look for it here in your available widgets, and then you'll drag it over to your slider area. And then you choose your slider. I have one slideshow here, the homepage slideshow that we just created. I can give it a title. I'm going to get rid of that title because I don't want it showing up on my home page, and I'm going to click Save. Now that I've saved that, I can go back to my home page, and now I can refresh, reload that page, and you'll see there's my slide now. Now I've just got one slide here, so I can add additional slides. So I'm going to add another slide now. I'm going to go back to LayerSlider. I'm going to select all sliders. I'm going to open back up that homepage slideshow I just created. And you'll see here next to the slide number 1 that we just added, there's a green button to add a new slide. So I'm going to add a second slide now. Click in the field for the image. Pick one from my media library. Now, I can go ahead and save this like it is and go back to my home page and refresh. Wait for it to start sliding. There we go. And you'll see that there's different transitions you can use between the slides. You can set this in the LayerSlider slides. So let's go back to where we were. And here's our slide. And you'll see there's a button here for selecting the transitions. By default, it will use a random transition from the library of transitions that it has available. But if you just want like a simple fade or something, click on this button. And it'll give you an example of what each one of these different transitions are. So say we wanted this a smooth fade from the left, like in the sample you see here when I mouse over it. I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to save this again. Okay, if I go back to my home page, let's refresh this. And see, there's our fade from the left that we just selected. So you can select different transitions on different slides, or you can select the same transition for all your slides if you want a nice fade on all your slides. So this is basically how you add slides to that slideshow. Now you'll also notice on our demo, if I change tabs over here, there's a little text box on the slide. And this is done by creating what's called a layer. So let's go back to our slide, and we're going to scroll down near the bottom, and you'll see below where the image is, there's a little box that says layers. This is where you add that text box. Now this requires a little more configuration than just adding the slides, but we're going to add one here for this image. Let's go back and do it to our first slide here. Okay, and you'll see there's a number of tabs here on the right. It says Basic, Options, Link, style attributes. Now a lot of these you can leave as a default, but we're going to start with basic. And to add that text, you need to click on this button here in this editor where it says div video. Okay, and it says custom HTML content. You will need to use HTML tags for adding this content, so I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to put some text here, for the slideshow. Now if I were to just save that like that and go back to the front, you'll see it's not even showing up because we haven't done that configuration. But we do need to have HTML tags in there. And the easiest way to do that, if you're not familiar with HTML, is go up and create a new post. I'm going to create a new post, open that up in a new tab, and I'm going to put some text down here. I'm going to call this my heading again. Some text for my slideshow will be here. Okay, let's put that on visual mode. Now what I want to do is I want to make my heading a heading, so I'm going to use this drop down menu here and select a heading style, say heading 2, and I'm going to make this text here regular paragraph text. I'm just going to call this test, and I'm going to save this as a draft. Now once I save that as a draft, if I click on text, you'll see now I've got the HTML tags in there. So I changed to text mode, and then I can copy this, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my layer, and I'm going to use this, paste this here. Let's paste it there. So now I've got some HTML tags in there, so I have a little heading on there with my text. And you'll see in the preview that text is there. It's just in the top left, but we want to make it like the demo. We want to have that nice colored background. We want to have it in the lower left. So we've got some settings here we're going to have to tweak. Okay, so let's go down to options. We can leave those as default. Link we can leave as a default. Style. Style is what we want here. So the first thing is the width. How wide do we want this? I'm going to set this at 30%, which is what we use on the demo. Okay. The top, I'm going to put 6 pixels. The next setting I'm going to do is on the right. I'm going to put another 6 pixels. The rounded corners, another 6 pixels. Now for top, the default is 0. I'm going to put 314. Bottom, I'm going to put another 6 pixels. Okay, line height, I'm going to make that 200%. Word wrap. Now we definitely want word wrap on because we're going to make this a small box, and if the text is wider than the box, we want it to wrap inside the box. Okay. Now left, we want 150 pixels. Left here we want another 6 pixels. Okay, and then down here for color, we want to put in, let's put in white. We could just select it with the little color picker here. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's save these changes. And you'll see here, there it is in my preview. Now the preview allows you to actually drag and drop. So once you see it in there, if you think, well, maybe I want it a little lower and a little to the left, you can grab it with your mouse and drag it to where you want it, and it will automatically update these settings for you. So you'll see there. Okay, so let's go ahead and save these changes, and let's go back to the front of the site and refresh. And you see there it is with my heading and some text. So that's how you add the layer to it for your slideshow. You can add little text boxes anywhere there just using the layer feature. And like I said, once you're working in the slide area, LayerSlider gives you tooltips for every one of these fields. So if you want to play around with some of these settings and really get advanced with your slider, you can do that. Just mouse over them like this. And again, there's documentation at the documentation link here. So that's how you add the LayerSlider to your theme.